What's up, YouTube? It's Zach here, and today I'm going to talk about numerology in the Quran as well as numerology just in general. And one of the things about numerology is it really transcends more than just Islam, religion. It really is present in everyday life, right? So if someone tries to say, oh, psychic abilities are real, or astral projection is real, or intuition, or whatever, you can't really prove that, right? And one thing about numbers is that we've all heard is that numbers don't lie, and that's the truth. Numbers, we can physically see it, we can quantify it. So it's totally there. It's one of those things that it's kind of in your face when it comes to religion in general. um, so first I want to talk about how do you actually figure out the numerology of something. Well, if I have a singular number, it's quite easy. Every single number 1 through 9 has its own meaning, right? So what happens, when you get to 11, 12, and even 13 or even 22, they kind of have their own special meanings. Having like something like 88 or 77, a double number, a triple number, that has a little bit more significance. But what if you get a number like 67, for example? How do you calculate that? Well, the way you calculate it is you do 6 plus 7, right? You put those two numbers together. So if I do 6 plus 7, I'm going to get 13. Now I can use 13 as its own individual number because that's a number of significance, but then you even break it down again. So you get 13, so then you put 1 and 3 together and you get 4. So typically the way numerology is calculated is it's just 1 through 9, right? So if I have a number like 1, 2, 3, I would do 1 plus 2 plus 3, and that would come out to 6. So then I would just view the number 1, 2, 3 as just the meaning of 6. So I'm not going to go into what each individual number means. I think we can kind of assume what 1 means. 1 is the first number. It's you can say it's kind of fiery, the start of something. Seven's a no-brainer. It's always that spiritual number. So is 1. We could say like 12 is an ending. Like there's 12 months. There's 12 astrology signs. But that's not what this video is about. I can make a separate video talking about what each number means, and there's a million and one videos and resources out there for you to check that out. Your name, for example. So if you have letters, certain letters have a corresponding number to them. So by doing, for example, my name, if I do my name, I come out to my prominent number is 7, right? And when you figure out the description of someone who's a 7, it usually comes out to their spiritual, they're into spirituality, they're into religion. And I mean, here I am making videos about divine mysteries and that type of stuff. I also have a lot of 1 in me, and that kind of describes my personality. I like playing sports and doing fighting and driving fast, whatever. It's just that's very 1 like. So now I want to kind of go into the Quran, and this also applies to the Torah. This also applies to the Bible. In in Judaism, they also assign, it's really big, numbers assigned to letters in the Torah. That's a big thing in Judaism. But I'm going to kind of go over some examples and how they apply to Islam, for example. So right now we're in the holy month of Ramadan. Now, the Ramadan is the 9th month. Now, if we also look at the sacred months, right, because those are separate from Ramadan, it would be the 7th, 11th, 12th, and 1st. Okay, so Ramadan is the 9th. The other sacreds are the 7, 11, 12, and 1. If we know other than 12, those are all odd numbers. And Laylatul Qadr is coming up. It's the last 10 days of Ramadan as I make this video. Most people assume, and scholars, that it'll be on an odd number. There seems to be a preference with odd numbers when it comes to God. But we really don't know, when exactly it'll be like. One of the most in-your-face examples, again, is the concept of 7. There's 7 layers of heaven, 7 layers of hell. I saw another YouTube video from another YouTuber who talked about the significance of 7 in religion. I'm going to link that up. You could check it out if you just want to see some more examples specific just to 7. When you also look at the mysterious letters in the Quran, some chapters in the Quran, they start off with like Alif, Lam, Mim, or Sin, or Ra. And so that occurs in 29 chapters, right? Surahs, 29 surahs. Surah is just an Arabic word for chapter. So it occurs in 29 chapters, right? So if we do the numerology there, 2 plus 9 equals 11. And again, 11 is one of the actually the sacred months. 11, 11. I mean, it's all over the place. 11 will make a wish. Where did that come from? The concept that 11 is a spiritual, a good luck number, so to speak. Um, it came from somewhere. So those mysterious letters that occur in 29 chapters, so that would equal 11. Now I'm also going to go over what are the most important surahs, and also even the most important ayat in the Quran. The most important ayat in the Quran, or verse, would be ayat al-Kursi. Now, if we actually look, it's in Surah al-Baqarah, so the second chapter, verse 255. So if we do some adding, 2 plus 5 equals 7. 7 plus 5 equals 12. Again, that's one of even the sacred months numbers is 12. 12 in the numerology circles is always a divine number. So we see that. And El Isra, which is when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, transcended to the seventh layer of seventh level of heaven. Um, it's one of the biggest moments in really the whole Quran, or really the biggest moment for the Prophet, peace be upon him. And it occurs in the 17th chapter. Al Isra is a 17, so we have that 1 7 there, right? Both spiritual numbers. And it's in this specific verse where he travels into the seventh level of heaven, layer 11, level both works. It is in verse 111, right? And that's the whole 111, make a wish type deal, right? There's definitely something to it. If 11 is one of the sacred months, it's just a common thing that, 111, when you get the repeating ones, it's definitely a spiritual um, connotation with that. I'm going to go over other surahs. When we look at Surah Al-Fatiha, so the chapter, this is the first, you know, chapter in the Quran. It's what every Muslim says before, when we're doing our main prayers, we start off with the Fatiha. And I think it's kind of a summarization of really what Islam and what it means to be a Muslim, which, by the way, the terms Islam and Muslim just translate as someone who submits, right? So someone who submits to God, when you read the Fatiha or the opening, you kind of really start to see the essence of what religion, the monotheistic religions are really about. So this is the first chapter, and it has 7 verses, right? It's by no, coincidence that this one also is 7 verses. These are all perfectly determined, just like there's 7 layers of hell, 7 layers of heaven. Um, the 7th month is one of the sacred months. And also interestingly, this is where you kind of see the divine miracles. It has 25 words in there. Okay, so let's add, what's the numerology of 25? Really simple. 2 plus 5, 7. So it's got 7 verses, and when you add up the words, it's 7. So we see that 177, most important surah, really most important prayer in the Quran, most important chapter. We're going to go to Surah Al-Mulk. That's also considered one of the most important chapters in the Quran. It is number 67, chapter number 67. So if we do some numerology here, 6 plus 7 equals 13. Now, one of the numbers associated with me is 13. 13 it's got its own separate meaning that I could talk about, but it's a very spiritual number. Even if you just break it down 1 and 3 together, those are both spiritual numbers. And also there's 30 verses in there. So we see the 30 in there. When Jesus started his ministry or his preaching, he was 30 years old. When he died, he was 33. There was 3 magi. There was 3 gifts given to him. And he rose on the 3rd day. And he's mostly mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, or chapter Al-Imran, which is the 3rd chapter. So, Jesus, he's mentioned 3 times, and we see that 3 is definitely a spiritual number, and it is associated in the numerological circles, that 3 is a spiritual number. We go to one of the other most important chapters or prayers in the Quran. It's Surah Yasin. This is the 36th chapter. So if we do simple numerology here, 3 plus 6 equals 9. Again, the holy month of Ramadan is the 9th month. 9 is always a spiritual number. 9 associates with Sagittarius. In the zodiac, Sagittarius is seen as a religious sign. 9 is always very much associated with spirituality. These are also all odd numbers, right? We're having 7, 3, 9. Interestingly, Yasin has 83 verses. What's 8 plus 3? 11. There we go again. We see that 11. Um, no coincidence there, right? Um, Now we're going to go to Surah Al Ikhlas, and it is the 112th um, chapter, so that comes out to four, and it's also four verses. So we're seeing this 44, and 40 is actually when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, started his preaching. Was at the age of 40. And we see like 444. That's in numerological circles. If you're on Instagram, it's like 444, make a wish, or 444, my angels, whatever. I mean, I think that's kind of weird, but it is what it is. There's definitely something with repeating fours that can be of significance. Um, and then Surat Al Asr, that's also considered one of the most important surahs, most important prayers in the Quran. It is the 103rd chapter, and it has three verses. Just like Surat Al Mulk, we're seeing again that 1, 3, that 13, that 3 reference. Very interesting there. Um, and that's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to touch base, with some numerology in the Quran. Now, again, this isn't something that is like me figuring out some strange, secrets in the Quran. No, I mean, really, the concept of seven being this holy number is something that's repeats for a very long time. I mean, it even precedes the monotheistic religions. Um, you know, God created the earth in 6 days, and then the next day he kind of chilled, basically. So we kind of see technically the earth was created in 7 days, because it says six and plus one. Um, we how does this kind of apply to you? Well, everyone's similar to how they have an astrology birth chart. They have you can figure out your numerology chart, right? You can figure out what the most important number is that applies to you, and it can kind of tell you a little bit about your personality. And you know what? Maybe if you're really into these type of videos and really into religion, you might have some seven in you. You might have some 11 or 9 or 3, something like that. Um, and I mean, that's also a way that God might communicate with you, is through seeing repeating numbers. I know I had a buddy. He was from the UAE. We were going to school together in Chicago, and he kept praying. He basically he kind of failed one of his classes or whatever, and he wasn't sure if he was going to graduate on time, and he was going to have to take a summer class, and he didn't want to take the summer classes, then he would be away from his family for the summer. So he kept praying that his, counselor was going to work a miracle. And then he kept seeing, like, I keep seeing 1111 or 77 or these repeating them. And I was right next to him when this started happening. Like, he'd be like, okay, I'm going to check the clock. He'd be like, oh my God, I see it again. And I was like right next to him. And I'm like, man, you are like happening to see this. And I've had the same instances happen to me where, something good is going to happen to me, or something big or something significant is going to happen to me. And I see those repeating numbers. So it can be a way that God is communicating with you, right? Because God says that He can communicate in the Quran. He says that He can communicate with you through angels, from behind a veil, from inspiration, right? And numbers can be an inspiration, so to speak. Um, and then what else is it proving here? Well, it's also proving that, I mean, for the Fatiha to be 7 verses, have 25 words, which equals seven, um, to have, God specifically chose to include a certain names a certain amount of times. Um, there's almost a rhythm, as is a good way to put it, for numbers included in the Quran. It seems to just, when you look at it from a big picture, it's almost so intricate that you're like, no human could have really made this stuff up, right? And that's the big thing where I'm coming with here. Um, if you're kind of iffy about religion, or you're a little like, well, this seems like it's man-made, this could have just been some guy who wrote this book and he used tales and whatever, there's no historical evidence of so and so, and this doesn't make sense. Okay, well, when you break it down, I mean, not only is the Quran considered one of the greatest, Arabic literature, Arabic poetry, you can say, but when you break the book down, and not just this book, but the Bible and the Torah, when you break them down, you're kind of just like, there's so many intricacies, there's so many reasons that this word was chosen this amount of time, that this word was chosen this amount of time, and you just kind of have to say like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, it's like, how could a human do that? This seems like, I don't even think an AI robot could be that specific and that smart and that creative to implement, you know, this word this amount of time, that word this amount of times. to make the verses this amount, to make it equal up to the chapter, and so on and so on. So I could go so in depth, and I had a numerology series, but again they got deleted. So I could go really in depth with more that's in there, and this is kind of, I'm gonna do it again because I did it before, and I also have a video about the numerology and astrology of Sulaiman alayhi salam. I had him on all the prophets, but you could check out that video. But Yeah, I mean, it should go to show that there's something divine about the book, because it's just for a human to be that smart and to put this amount of words in here and in this amount of times and that amount of times and this verse equal that and this verse equal this. It's really a miracle within itself. So I hope there's a couple things you learn from this, that yeah, there is some significance to numbers, that yes, if you're seeing repeating numbers, or you're seeing this, or you're seeing that, probably has a deeper meaning behind it. You can figure out a little bit more about your personality, the personality of the people around you, and your significant others, etc., through doing the numerology chart. And that also, that this book is divine and that God is real, and human can't do this type of stuff. So thank you for watching. I'll try to continue.